If you like that drop, stick around because I'm going to show you how to get that wonky GorillaT vibe. Let's break it down step by step and let me know in the comments which artist I should cover next. So the BPM for this project is 95 BPM. I'm going to break down the drums first, then the synths, and finally the fills. So the drums sound like this. And they consist of a kick drum, 2 snares layered, both of them together sound like this, and then this hat. So pretty simple halftime type drums. Let's go to the synths now. So inside the Synths Group, I have my sidechain already in place. I'm using utility as usual to create a sidechain curve every time that the kick drum or the snare hits. And I also have this reverb throw automations just to create like a nice flowing effect from section to section inside the drop. So the first sound that you hear is this one. And that consists of a sub with some distortion and 2 layers. So I'm just gonna break this one first, which is the main one. And then I'm gonna break down the layer, which is pretty much a variation of it, and then the sub with distortion. All right, so let's get into this one. First things first, I wanna show you that I'm automating the pitch bend of Serum. That can be done by just clicking this configure button and then clicking the band wheel, and then you have this pitch bend that you can automate as simple as automating any other parameter in Ableton. So for this one, I started with this harmonium sound in the multi-sample mode on Serum. Let me show you how that sounds. Oh, and let me show you the notes that I'm hitting. So this is the chord that I'm doing, and I have this LFO1 routed to the level of these 3 oscillators. This one is 1 octave up. Then I enable the oscillator B, and I'm using this other sample, the upright piano, in the multi-sample mode as well. And same, I'm doing the modulation with the LFO1, 1/16 triplets. Then on the 3rd oscillator, I have a saw wave, 1 octave up, 7 voices, and the same modulation. Cool. Now going into the effects, I have compression, distortion, hyper dimension, a little bit of delay, another compression in single band this time, and some reverb. If you have seen my F-in video already, you will notice that this sound is was created pretty similarly to the one that I used in that video. So yeah, it's pretty much like a variation of that one. Now, I created a subgroup for these 2 layers. There's one that I just broke down, and then this other one. But something that I forgot is that the subgroup has some stuff in it, like OTT, overdrive, and autopan. So sounds like this, just with the one that I just broke down. Then I have OTT with this mounts overdrive. You can absolutely use the native OTT effect that Ableton has. This one, I just used the Xfer one, but you can use whichever. Honestly, this one is free to get also, so yeah. Then I have overdrive with these parameters, just boosting on the top end, and then autopan with the phase all the way down, and this rate and amount, just making it like a little bit choppier. Yeah. So with that out of the way, let's move on to this layer. The last thing before I move to the next layer is that this has an EQ cutting everything below 150 and cutting a little bit on the 2K area and cutting again at almost 13K. All right, now let's jump to this layer, and as you can see, I'm doing the same pitch bend automation. So this one started with, once again, the multi-sample mode, but I'm using this sample this time on the strings folder with this modulation. Look at the LFO and the shape, the rate, it's being routed to the level. Then this wavetable from the vowel folder, same modulation in here. Then this shape from the default shapes, position 6. And AC hum. Then moving into the effects, I have compression, multiband, soft clipping, distortion, pretty similar to the last patch. Then hyper dimension, some little amount of delay, and reverb. I didn't use the filter, so I'm just gonna remove this modulation. That's how it sounds, and then outside of the patch, I just have the exact same EQ that I was using for this one as well. So that's how these two were made. Now let's jump into the Distortion Sub, which has the same pitch bend automation in here. And I want to show you how I created the sound. And this one is just two oscillators. One is the sub oscillator and the other one is a saw oscillator, the default shape that Serum has on its initial preset. And what I'm doing here is I'm sending the sub to the bus 2 and I'm sending the oscillator A to the bus 1. So now let's move into the effects. As you can see in the main tab, I don't have anything. If I go to the bus 1, which as you remember, it's what is being directed to the saw waving here. We have distortion, compression, multiband, this EQ, sine shaper distortion with the post mode, and this parameters, and EQ. So without these effects, it sounds like this. And now for the bus 2, which goes to the sub, I just have soft clipping, distortion, and EQ. Outside of the patch, I just have this EQ, which is cutting some frequencies around the 200 Hertz, the 1.5K, and around 5K. And that's how it sounds. So the 3 layers together sounds like this. Yeah. Cool. Now this little wub sound and this Yoi bass, they're both part of my Patreon presets, so I'm not going to spend too much time breaking them down, but you can see what's going on in here. 2 basic shapes, 2 sine waves, basically a little bit of modulation and some effects like distortion, bandpass, compression, hyper, reverb, and EQ. Some overdrive and EQ outside of them, and then this Yoi bass. It's a square wave with a good amount of resonance on that filter, some downsampling, distortion, compression, reverb, and hyper. But yeah, if you're part of my Patreon, you will definitely get access to these presets and a lot of extra presets that I put out each month, besides the ones that comes from the project files. So now let's move on to this section of the drop. Sounds like this. So as you can see, I'm using this same sound in here, just in a different way. I just have this notes going and just giving some rhythm to the section. So I'm using that, then I'm using like a variation of the chord, just in a much higher speed in the rate, 132 triplets. The rest is the same basically. But now the main sounds of this section is this two. And for the sub part, I'm using a sub rack that I created, which it's not, you know, too complicated of a rack. Is just the hip hop sub bass from Ableton, but you can absolutely like just create a sub using Serum and you'll be good to go. So just a simple sub bass, and it has some auto pan with the phase all the way down and this rate and amount. Then the main sound is this one, which has a lot of post-processing, so I'm just gonna mute all of that and show you how everything was made. All right, so this sound started with this wavetable MB saw from the analog folder, and I'm using the mirror feature in here and the warping 15%, level 75%, and panned a little bit to the right. Sounds like that. Pretty quiet. Let me bring it up for you. That's how that sounds. Then I enable the oscillator B with the crash wub wavetable, band plus minus, and I'm using the LFO1 that looks like this to modulate the banding level at around 36%, panning a little bit to the left. That's how that sounds. Then I have some white noise sound with that level being modulated, pan to the right a little bit, filter 75, and the same LFO. All right. Then I enabled a reverb filter. This one is pretty important for the timbre of the sound with these parameters. And it's affecting the two oscillators and the noise. That's how it sounds. Now let's move on to the effects. Soft clipping distortion. Some multiband compression. Phaser. And some diffuser. This is a new filter from Serum 2, and it's pretty similar to KHS disperser. The LFO1 is modulating the drive. Sounds like this. So as you can see, the diffuser is pretty important in here. That's it for the sound itself. Let's move on to the post-processing. I have amp, overdrive, erosion, saturator. I have two instances, so the first one looks like this. It's pretty important to play with the bass and the depth on this one. And another saturator. Check out that now the bass and depth are different, and same with the drive. Lastly, auto pan with the phase all the way down, 1/8 in the rate, amount 100%. That's what's giving it the movement, the up and down movement. And this EQ because the sub is already covering for that area. So yeah, that's how it sounds. So with the sub. Then the drop goes back into this same sound that we already covered. I did some variations of in the fills, like first sound like that, then second time around it's a little bit more open. Same with the Yoi bass. Second time around it's different. And yeah, I'm just using the macros that I assigned for that. Then the sound that we get into this section is this one, which is pretty like a signature sound from artists like GorillaT, but also I've heard it from like Mersive, Taboo, guys like that. They really like to use this sound and I think it's a pretty cool one. And the sub is the same as before, same exact patch or same rack, I should say, but I'm muting the auto pan device in this part because I don't need it. And then for the sound itself, I'm gonna show you how it was made, but it's pretty much a variation of the sound that we just heard. So yeah, this one is a variation of the first Wonky Bass that we broke up, this one. And this one started in the same way with the same wavetable mirror once again. In this one is a little bit simpler though. It has less stuff in general. It doesn't have any LFO at all. I have the crush wub again. I'm not using the noise in this part. Then I have the reverb filter affecting both oscillators and these parameters. So how it sounds so far. Then moving into the effects, I have soft clip and distortion, compression, phaser, and diffuser once again. Which in this one is also pretty important. That's for the patch itself, as you can see, pretty similar to the Wonky Bass one, but a little bit simpler. And the post-processing is once again pretty much the same deal with amp, overdrive, erosion, 2 saturators again. And here's the key of this sound. This is how you actually create that movement that you hear on this type of sounds. You use shifter and you go into the frequency mode. Take the dry wet knob down to approximately 25%, something like that, and then play with the fine knob. Actually, as you can see, I'm doing a little bit of automation of the fine tuning, and that is what changes kind of like the rate of the movement. So let me show you what I mean. I actually have a couple extra examples for you, so I have those in here, and it's the exact same sound, exact same post-processing, but something that I wanted to show you is that if you add 2 shifters and you put the dry wet around like 30%, you get like a more exaggerated, you know, movement that could sound pretty cool. I'm also have like a different rating here. It's a little bit slower. Check out how it sounds if I only have 1 shifter instead. Now 2 shifters. Yeah, and then yeah, you can play with different rates or doing automations of the fine tuning to create different rates. Just to play with the speed of the movement. Yeah, you do that by playing with the fine knob as I'm doing here. If you're not on Ableton and you don't have access to shifter, you can create a pretty similar effect by using the effect called bode inside Serum. So let me show you. That's how it sounds without shifter, but if I go here and plays bode and then mess with some of this knobs, is gonna give me a similar effect. So I'm gonna put the mix around like 30% again. Yeah, so you can see it's a similar effect. Obviously, since I have all of the extra post-processing afterwards, it's making it sound a little bit weird. That's why I prefer to use shifter for this one, but you do have the alternative of using bode if you are not using Ableton. And by the way, if you want to play with this drop, I uploaded the full project and all the presets to my Patreon. That's where I put all my projects and extra goodies each month, like sample packs and presets. So make sure to hit the link in the description if you want to get it. Now going into the fills, I just have pretty simple stuff like this, crash, and some like reverse samples, and stuff like this. And I also have like a couple vocals, like that one and that chant. If this type of bass music is your jam, definitely check out my tape beat tutorial next. Tap the video on screen and I'll see you there.